Minutes. I'm Jeff Belanger, our very first show here tonight. Can I get a round of applause? Would it kill you? Huh?
Show us your eye.
Yeah, thanks guys. All right, this is a new kind of show. We're going to be talking about all kinds of subjects, from the paranormal, the unusual, the unexplained, and tonight will be no different. And so what's great about this is through technology, we're going to have our guests from all over the world, and not just here in Massachusetts, which is where we're filming from. So very excited to be here doing this, and it's a subject that's interested me my whole life. I've been doing ghostly stuff since I was about 10 years old, and looking forward to meeting some really interesting people and talking about some great subjects in depth. So a little bit about me. I'm an author. I'm a researcher. I've been working in the paranormal for a number of years now, and because of that, I get access to a lot of really cool people from all over the world as I go to conferences and things like that. And sometimes I bring my camera and I get to ask them questions. And so what I do is I ask them the kind of questions that I think you would ask them if you only had one opportunity. So with that, I think we should go to our first clip, which is a segment that we like to call 1 Minute Interview.
One Question Interview.
I think we're... And Lauren, this is your one question interview. Do you ever think we'll really find compelling evidence of the existence of Bigfoot?
I'm not sure. That we could not. We need to really keep looking deeply and thoroughly for these creatures. Some people actually say that they see them. We need to investigate those cases. We need to look for physical, material evidence. Did something just happen?
That we were at the Mount Washington Hotel about a month ago and doing this paranormal conference, and Bigfoot was there, as you saw, and Lauren didn't know at the time. So we went out to the front of the hotel and we were talking, and you know, I asked him his one question, and the part I couldn't have predicted. I knew Lauren would give a pretty solid answer because he's a polished kind of guy, but Lauren Coleman, cryptozoologist, thank you for that ending where you look around and you say, something just happened? It was great. Couldn't have planned it any better. We're going to bring you that segment every show because I get to talk to some pretty neat folks from all over, and some folks that have great perspectives. And it's going to be a fun clip as we move boldly forward on the show. Should I stand over here so I'm right over my name? All right. Thanks. Good Lord. We are low tech, low budget, but we're going to get through this thing with brute force and ignorance, aren't we? So tonight we're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I actually wrote a book on it. Nightmares, night terrors, things that can attack you while you're sleeping. It's a prone state, to be sure. You know, think about it. You're lying down, you're resting, and something comes after you. Worse than a nightmare, worse than night terrors. And I'm pretty excited because we've got some great guests all the way from Maine who did this DVD. It's called Your Worst Nightmare, Supernatural Assault. We've got the guys from Soulsmack Productions. And I want to start with a clip from this documentary that they've put together, which is going to really explore, which explores the subject of through the eyes of witnesses, scientists, researchers who have looked into things that can go wrong while you're sleeping. And we're going to talk a little bit more in depth. But first, Andy, can we roll the clip? No, we can't. Okay. You know what? I'll buy time. I have no problem with that at all. You just yell when you're ready, and we'll get through this. Like I said, it's low tech, and if we fail, we're gonna fail spectacularly. But a little bit more about this. The idea is supernatural assault, and so we're going to talk about something that starts with what the medical community would call sleep paralysis, where you wake up and you can't move. You're completely paralyzed. Sometimes that only lasts a few seconds. That would be sleep paralysis. Some people report actually seeing an entity coming toward them and an attack, where they're petrified, they're scared, they lose their breath, they can't breathe. It's frightening, it's horrific. Sometimes it lasts a few seconds, sometimes it can go on for quite some time. And it's a phenomena that's all over the world, which we're going to talk about. And the way people deal with it, you know, a lot of people are going to respond with their belief system or whatever they've been taught religiously, because it's that frightening. It makes you think, you know, you've got to reach out to your creator for support. I think there's a lot we can learn by nightmares and dreams, because think about it, a nightmare is probably the most memorable dream you're going to have. And when you wake up, that's a message for you to keep. But we're talking about something worse than nightmares, and I'm told the clip is ready. How was that? That was almost like a filibuster. Good God. All right, let's play it. Play the clip.
I belong to Christ. Oh my God, and God, I love you, and I'm asking God to please open up my eyes to get me away from it. And it doesn't leave me, but I keep praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. Finally, because it can't get in me, it wants to get in me. And I feel that. It's almost like if I were to lay there and say, go ahead, it would invade my body.
Hey, there they are. Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
We've got Paul Taitt and Andrew Barnes here from the great state of Maine. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys.
You're welcome.
It's my pleasure.
All right. You see us okay? You hear us okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Sounds great. Thanks for the clip, by the way. Thanks for allowing us to play that. Let's start with, how did you first even get interested in the whole notion of these spectral attacks?
Well, Paul and I both had experiences individually with this. My brother actually had a sleep paralysis incident when he was 18, and a few years later I met Dr. Hufford, David Hufford from UPenn and Penn State University, who did all of the research that we used as a foundation for this documentary.
Excellent, excellent. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I had experienced sleep paralysis myself, so it was something that, you know, we really wanted to explore and find out more about, and hopefully shed some light on this subject for many people around the world.
Well, let's define sleep paralysis here on the basic level. I mean, I talked before where as you sleep in cycles, every now and then we wake up and we short circuit, right? We've got a little bit, we're paralyzed, right? That's a natural process of sleep, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's a process that's very well known. If you disrupt your sleep patterns, get overtired or overstressed, you're more likely to have sleep paralysis, which simply means that your muscles don't regain the ability to move at the same time that you awake, or you lose the ability to move your muscles just before you go to sleep. So you're awake, but you're completely paralyzed.
Right. But your documentary, it starts there, but barely, right? We're talking about stuff that's much worse than sleep paralysis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll start off. When sleep paralysis lasts more than, say, 30 seconds, you appear to become vulnerable to having a very scary and traumatizing experience where you have the sense that you are attacked, that there's an intruder in your house, and depending on how you interpret it, you might say that it was a supernatural assault, as in the title of our movie, or you might say that you might be able to talk yourself into believing you had some sort of hallucination, but 95% of the people who have one of these attacks is completely convinced that it's real and really happening to them while they're awake.
Right, right. Like the lady we heard from in the clip. You know, from watching your movie, watching your documentary, I mean, I've had an experience myself, but just sleep paralysis, where I woke up and I couldn't move, and just seconds later I shook it off. But the folks that you interviewed, I mean, this was much more profound. How do you get people to open up about something so powerful and personal?
Well, we really, you know, spoke to them in depth way before the interview. And then the day of the interview, we would sit down with them and we would talk to them, let them become familiar with us and relax. That was important for them, to relax, because they were about to speak to us, almost total strangers, about a subject they had never spoken to with anyone. I mean, a lot of these people kept this bottled up inside, and it wasn't until our documentary that they actually spoke for the first time to, outsiders, and it really helped them. Doing this really helped them. So we were able to get a real sincere interview, and as you've seen the documentary, it's almost like you're sitting, or they're coming into your living room while you're sitting there, and you can really feel the intensity that these people experienced. It was pretty amazing, and we really appreciate what they did.
Right. And now on a global scale, this is not just happening in America or in the Western culture. This goes back a long time, right?
It does. It goes back thousands of years. I mean, there are some artwork pieces that everybody's probably seen them, by Henry Fuseli, The Nightmare, and there's others.
Right there.
Sorry. They depict the same type of evil presence, spiritual presence, and they always show it either sitting on top of somebody or laying on top of them. It's almost like it's crushing them, and that's where we get, a lot of the descriptors that people describe. They talk about the old hag. They were hag-rid, and it all ties back to that same imagery. It doesn't matter what culture you're from. It all ends up being the same, but they may have slightly different descriptors, slightly different words, and the imagery may be slightly different, but it's all pretty much fundamentally similar.
Yeah, right. And now, one of the things that I found in my research when I was looking into this was the Hmong people, right, of Laos, with their Dao Cho. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Thanks.
Are you talking about the deaths that occurred?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, that's something that the science doesn't hold up. The evidence does not hold up to say that sleep paralysis was the cause of the many deaths among very particularly healthy young men. It makes for a nice, sensational story, but it's very important to understand that sleep paralysis doesn't appear to have killed anybody.
Okay, so that didn't hold up. So the whole story was, just for those people that are completely lost now, is that in the 1970s, the U.S. government armed, during the Vietnamese conflict, armed some of the neighboring countries. These people believed in making offerings to their ancestors. They got out of the country, came here, stopped doing those old ways, and apparently some of them were dying in their sleep. And you're saying the science had no connection to...
Yeah, in particular, the way that they died is not consistent with sleep paralysis.
Okay.
Sleep paralysis happens primarily on your back. Not for everyone, but the vast majority of the cases occur when you're sleeping on your back. And the Hmong people were not known to have that occurrence. And I'm trying to think back to the specifics of it. We really let the Hmong people go, but because in terms of researching this, because it was very compelling data to think that maybe this is something attacks you in your sleep and you die. So if you believe it is actually a spiritual being or a non-material being, then basically the suggestion would be that demons or something unknown comes into your sleep while you're sleeping, just like Nightmare of Elm Street, and you can be killed by it, which is extremely sensational and compelling. But for that and several other specific reasons in the research, the trajectory of the Hmong people and their deaths goes contrary to the science, and there's a specific reason for this, which is slipping my mind right now, but I can assure you that it's not relevant. Yeah,
they were actually dying of heart arrhythmias. That's what they found they were dying of on autopsy. It's very difficult to detect heart arrhythmia. So these people were dying and attributing the deaths to, obviously through their beliefs, the sleep paralysis was the culprit. It was killing them. That's what they believed. And it wasn't until they actually did more study and they actually found the evidence there, and they said this is what they were dying from. It was a change of scenery. It was, you know, they were coming to the United States. Their diet was changing. Their whole way of life was changing. It was stressful enough. And they were refugees here in the United States, and all of that, you know, caused this condition to rear its head and take the lives of many young men.
So no one's died of this. Is that what you found?
Not known, and there haven't been mysterious deaths.
All right. Well, this interview's over then, because that's not nearly as interesting. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'd like to tell you that demons are attacking people, and we now have proof that we're in danger, so that everyone becomes spiritually aware,
right.
And the whole world researches this. But there are other really good reasons for taking that route, but the wrong people are not that reason, as
Okay.
I can tell.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, but what are some of the extreme cases that you're hearing about? The fear is real. There's no question. These people are shaken by what they've experienced. I talked to someone, I was just at a conference last week, and I talked to someone that we were talking about this, and she said it goes on for 30 minutes. Finally, she's learned to know that when she senses it coming, she sleeps next to her husband, and she reaches over and smacks him, and he knows what to do. Wake her up, stir her out of it. But the fear in her eyes was genuine. And I'm sure you guys encounter that. What are some of the other experiences that people go through with this?
We could talk. We could tell you a typical experience of sleep paralysis,
Sure.
and Paul could tell you exactly how his experience of it happened.
Great.
And this may be the first time mainstream television has actually had this broadcast out to them. It's
Wait a minute. Mainstream? I don't know if it's quite mainstream, but television, sure. Don't give us too much credit.
We'll be there.
All right. Please continue.
Yeah, so some of the experiences that were terrifying. I mean, there was one girl in our documentary that we filmed in the shadows, and she had her face blacked out.
Right.
And she had told us on camera that she believed what happened to her was a non-material entity had entered her room at nighttime, and it had held her hands behind her head, and she was assaulted, physically assaulted, and it was disturbing. You know, it almost caused a total meltdown in her life, and she was distraught, and she kept that inside her for years. It happened to her. But we finally got her to speak about it for the first time on camera, and she delivered her testimony, and it's compelling. When you hear this story, and afterwards again, she really felt relieved, and it helped her to be able to speak about this with other people who would listen to her.
I do remember that interview in the documentary, and I mean, she talks like a rape victim. I mean, this is how a rape victim speaks, and that's really what she experienced, right? I mean, in her mind.
She believes, and she is convinced, that she was sexually assaulted,
right,
in her sleep more than once, and she's not unique in that experience. That is, it's not the most common form of this, but in the research, there are victim after victim after victim that say the same thing happened to them. People who've never met each other come out with the same exact story.
Right, right. And how many people are experiencing this? Do you guys have any sense of numbers?
If you base the research, if you base the numbers on the Roper poll, which was created by people who were interested in researching another topic that has some similarities to it, the Roper poll was done with 5,000 individuals, and most of the questions were about the possibility of alien abduction. And because of the similarities between alien abduction and the sleep paralysis experiences, the two groups got together and added some questions that were directly relevant to sleep paralysis. So for the first time, we were able to find out how many people actually experience it. Out of the 5,000 people in that poll, 1 out of 5 people have sleep paralysis at least once. 80% of them or more, 80% of those who experience sleep paralysis have a sense of intruder or a spiritual being during the process. Well, if you just do the numbers on that, worldwide, among the living population today, 1.2 billion people would agree that they experience sleep paralysis.
Right.
We couldn't actually imagine that that was true. So we took our cameras down to the streets of Portland, Maine, during the summer, last summer, and asked individuals at random if the basic question, have you ever woken up in the night or in the morning and been unable to move? And well over 1 out of every 5 people we talked to had that experience. And every single one was perfectly willing to talk about it.
20%.
And they were amazed that anyone had ever heard of it before, because they had never admitted it, because they didn't want anyone to call them crazy.
Isn't that funny? I think we have a culture that doesn't really talk about our dreams much. Our nightmares, our dreams, or anything that happens once we shut the door in the bedroom. I mean, maybe that's our puritanical roots in this country anyway, still hanging on. But are you finding, since your documentary came out, since, I'm sure you've heard from more people since this came out, but are you finding people are finally starting to open up a little bit?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people coming to our website, opening up, they're posting their stories. There are people who are relieved that they're able to converse with other sufferers of this condition, or this, whatever you want to call it. And they're able to do that in our forums. And, it's amazing to see how many people are coming forward. We posted our trailer on YouTube, and we've had hundreds of responses in text saying, this happened to me. I can't believe, again, that this is actually out there, so we can actually figure out what was going on. Like I was saying, I had sleep paralysis in my life, and when it happened to me first, I was 22 years old. And back then, there were no resources. We didn't have the internet back then. I mean, where could you find out about this? If you went to the library, you would need to know what you were looking for. And I didn't know what it was called. So for me, I suffered, 5 years not knowing what this was, until I actually saw it on TV one day. I just so happened to see it on TV, and it answered a lot of the questions, and I was able to make the connection.
Right. And well, that website is soulsmack.com for people who want to see that information, see some more about the movie, and get involved in the discussion that's taking place there. It's a great resource, and hopefully, with search engines, people can finally put in these terms. Can't move, paralyzed. They can start finding some answers where, like you said, when we were kids, you had to know what you were looking for before you'd find it. So, great stuff. So, what's next for you guys?
Well, we've got about 6 documentary plans. One film should be ready sometime during the summer. It's almost in production right now. It's oriented also around ghosts and the occurrence of shadow beings. Right. But we're also going to do a documentary film on a related topic. If sleep paralysis actually... Since science can't come up with an explanation for sleep paralysis, in other words, the only scientific explanation for sleep paralysis is it's not really happening because there's no such thing as the spiritual world in terms of being able to really see it and measure it. If you take the thousands and thousands of interviews of people who've had sleep paralysis and compare them, the stories are all the same. In essence, they wake up paralyzed, and they may hear footsteps in the hallway. Their door opens. Something comes into the room. Whether they see it or not, they feel it. And oftentimes they feel their bed sink down with the weight of something coming to get them, and they have a sense that they're strangled, that they can't breathe. Right. If you take all of these interviews around the world, 1.2 billion people cannot be wrong. It makes you wonder, what is the real cause of this? Is this evidence or proof of a non-material being? I'm not saying it is, but if it is, then you have to also look at the 2 other topics of our upcoming documentaries. One which is on near-death experiences, in which people appear to go into the afterlife and come back and tell us about it. And then the other one, which is bereavement experiences, where over and over and over again, people see their deceased loved ones coming back to them. And we're just going to shed some light on those with the help of some scientific approaches to see if we really have a story.
Excellent. Well, Paul Taitt and Andrew Barnes, I really appreciate you being with us tonight and sharing what you've done. Again, the documentary is called Your Worst Nightmare, Supernatural Assault. You can check it out at soulsmack.com. And we'll also have a link from our website, 30oddminutes.com. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Jim.
All right, yeah. Right on. All right. Well, we've got some more for you. As we switch gears here from nightmares to ghostly things, we've got a clip of the week, which is something we hope to do with each show, where we're going to find some interesting folks to talk to. We're going to get Jo on the phone here, see if we can connect with her. Calling Jo. We're going to talk about a clip that she's got up on YouTube. If she's still with us. Trying again. Sorry. Like we said, we're going to make this up as we go, folks. All right. We're using Skype for all this wonderful technology as we try to get her on the phone. There she is. Jo, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Hey, Jo, it's Jeff Belanger. You're live on 30 Odd Minutes, and we only have a couple minutes left, but what I wanted to do is talk to you about your clip. We're going to play it here, and then I'll come right back to you, okay?
Okay. If you want me to stay, make the cell sensor beep once. No little bumps. I want you to make it beep. Can you please make it beep one time if you want me to continue to report? Not the word one. You have to make the cell sensor beep.
Too funny, Jo. So what you're using is a ghost box, which other people might call a shack hack, right?
Right.
And we only have about a minute, but can you just kind of talk us through what you were doing?
I used the Model 12469.
Okay.
And what I was doing is I was just doing my regular ghost box kind of stuff, and they happened to come through with that, and I thought it was kind of cute.
Right. It's so funny. I guess they don't listen very well because you said make it beep, and something came through that said beep.
Right. They decided to play, I think, and instead of making the cell sensor beep, they just said the words.
Right. And Jo, you're in California?
Yeah, I am.
Well, thanks for coming on with us tonight. I hope we don't interrupt your dinner. But thanks for sharing that. It's great that people like you are collecting this stuff and putting it out there for the world to see, and we appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Take care, Jo.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Isn't that fun? So, very good. Our first episode, a minute left, they tell me in the back. Thank you, Steve. Nightmares, ghosts, that's the kind of stuff we're going to be covering tonight. It's through the miracle of Skype that we're able to do this. We can have our guests from all over the world come in live right here to you guys. You can check out our website. It's 30oddminutes.com, the number 30oddminutes.com. Send us an email at info@30oddminutes.com. Tell us what you think. Tell us the kind of subjects you want us to cover. This is going to evolve as we go. As I'm sure you saw some bugs tonight. We did. But we're just going to laugh our way through them and keep going until we get it right. So I want to say thanks to the Peanut Gallery here. Yeah, right on. Appreciate you guys being here. There's a bunch of guys named Andy and Steve and Rob working cameras, and this is just going to be a fun thing for us. And like I said, we'll make it better as we go. So I want to say thank you for everybody for watching. If you're watching this in the archives, all the better. Get in touch with us and have a great night. Stay spooky, stay odd, stay paranormal.